Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with Spellbinders, and we are going to create an extremely large card, which I think is awesome, using the Amazing Paper Grace die of the month. And this, of course, is for September. So this die, while it's intricate, it is what I'll consider a background die. So this will fill up a 6x6 panel. I'm going to take it one step larger. So that brown panel is actually cut to 7x7. The blue is cut 6.5 by 6.5, and that's in inches. So the white panel, and I also have the panels for the card base, and I'll talk about those when we get there. So the white panel, I cut 6x6. That will fit this die, and this die will fit in your standard die cutting machines. I am using my Spellbinders Platinum 6. So we've got a lot of pieces to punch out, but they do literally just fall out. I am using my tool-in-one, which has some awesome attachments. So I'm going to place this onto, now I'm calling it blue, it's like an aqua or a seafoam green, whatever you want to call. I'm placing that on top of that square. Now again, that is 6.5 by 6.5. Now, on the other end of my tool-in-one, I have the piercing tool. Now they also have other tools available. They have the ones, and I forget what the names are. Wow. The little rollers so that you can curl your papers, and they have those in multiple sizes. So anyway, I'm piercing a hole in the center of each of these florals. Now remember, you also have the individual dies that you can build up in these areas as well. But when I saw this die, I saw a quilt. It brought back some memories. But that's what I was seeing when it came to this. So I would suggest gluing your piece down first, then piercing the holes. I'm just saying. I was able to get this down with the holes back into the center. Yeah, sometimes I think ahead and then have to go backwards. Yeah, it's all right. So now that I have those pierced, I'm going to grab some DMC floss. Now you can use anything you want. You can use the cotton pearl, you can use some twine, you can use regular threads, but you want to make sure that it's something not too thick. So a thick yarn would probably not work. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just string this thread through these holes, just creating an X in the areas where there's not a circle. So I really sped this section up because I wanted you to see it. I didn't want to edit all of this out. So you can just see it's almost like cross stitch. That's what I'm creating here, counted cross stitch. Except this time you don't have to count. It's right there. I love counted cross stitch. You can get some beautiful designs. It may take a while, but they are beautiful designs. Again, I've tried every craft. So as I'm continuing through, I'm keeping the colors very muted. The only bold color that I have in this card is the brown, is that dark brown, and that's because I want this panel to pop up. So once I have this one section done, I'm now going to start another thread just so that I can finish the areas that I have left. Now once these X's are completed, there's going to be a design that I put coming off of each of the corners. Now, one of the things that I don't like doing is measuring. I mean, I don't mind if I have, you know, my trimmers and all of that, but if I have to manually measure, yeah. And I quilted for so long, which is funny. So I pierced a hole right in the corner coming off of those circles. Then I grabbed my ruler and I wanted to measure off of each of those going into the points a ½ inch. So I do that for each of the corners. And then I wanted to have 2 other holes coming out from either side. So it's almost like I'm creating like an arrow that's going, it's going to look like an arrow that's pointing in, but it's actually going to be just some sprigs coming out to the side. So I'm going to pierce those holes, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew using my thread to create that design that I'm looking for. Now, you could have done the outline of that image. You didn't have to do, you know, what I was doing, having all three coming out of the bottom point and raying into the outer points that I have. So there's many different ways that you can do that. You could have used another color, but again, I wanted to keep this soft when it came to what I'm calling the quilt part of this card. As I'm stretching the thread across the back, I am placing a piece of double-sided tape just to keep that flat, keep it against the card so that I don't pull the card and bend it. I could create my own warping if I pull too hard on the thread. You just want it to make sure that it's laying against it. I'm going to grab some white foam because I do want to prop this up, and I used my 2-inch film tape that I get from Uline. I'll have that linked below, but just remember, this is a very strong 2-inch wide tape. It is not forgiving. The moment you touch the paper, there is no way, absolutely no way, to get them apart unless you really destroy the paper. So, just a fair warning. So now I'm going to come in with the thread, and I'm going to tie some double knots, leaving the threads loose on each of the spots where the thread crosses. Not where I'm going into the hole, but where the threads cross over. And I do want to leave those little tails. So I did that around all of the section. So when it comes to my card base, I cut one piece at 8 inches by 7.5 inches wide, and then one by 7.5 inches wide by 7 3/8. On the first piece that was 8 by 7.5, I scored at 1/2 inch along the 8-inch side. I'm going to use some double-sided tape, and I'm going to place the 7.5 by 7 3/8 cut piece along that. Now, I want the 7.5 to match up to this side. By cutting it 1/8 of an inch shorter, it's going to be even at the base of my card. I kept a couple of strips of the aqua and the brown, and I'm going to hide where that flap is to make my card base. It was annoying me. Yeah. So I'm just going to put a strip along the top, make sure that they're even, and then this just adds a little bit of decoration for the inside. Now, this is definitely a larger size card. You're talking about a 7.5 by 7.5. You would be able to create your own envelope, again, measuring from corner to corner. And I'll link to that video on how I make my own envelopes for out of normal size cards, so to speak. But this is something that I would definitely hand deliver to someone. It may not even be a card. This could be something that somebody would want to frame and put up on their wall as well. So again, this could be something, even though you have it on a card base, put it in a frame. And it would be a wonderful gift for somebody just to accent their wall. So many choices when it comes to this. So when it comes to the center of the circles, I wanted to add some sequins. I am going to use my iridescent sequins by Desiree. And then I started out using glue. Yeah, that wasn't working for me because they were coming up. I mean, they were holding, by all means, they are definitely holding. But I found the best thing to use would be my micro glue dots. So I'm going to put my sequins on my sheet here, and then I'll pull those off and put those on top of the circles just to, you know, create like a flower, so to speak. By using the glue dots, the glue is fine and it will hold. I'm impatient. Sometimes because you've got the threads going on there, you're not going on to the paper. Sometimes the sequin can come back up while I'm using my wax pencil, which is fine. But again, impatient. So the glue dots give me an automatic stick. They adhere perfectly. So I use those. As I turned that, I got some of the Nouveau drops on the inside. Yeah, that was fine. Then I'm pulling out my gloss Nouveau drops in Duck Egg Blue, and I'm going to put a drop of that in the center of each of the sequins. So again, creating that flower, so to speak, look. Now you don't have to do that. You can add, some speckles, glue, glitter glue, whatever you want to do there. So I hope you do enjoy today's project using the Amazing Paper Grace die of the month for September from Spellbinders. All the products that I use, along with links to the Spellbinders blog, gallery, gotta have lots of inspiration going on there. And of course, their shop will all be linked down below in the video description. If you should have any questions or comments, make sure you leave those down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I want to thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video. If you haven't already, I'd love for you to subscribe. Make sure you ring the bell so that you don't miss the next video. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day, but always remember what's most important. Always be creative.